Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Rogers, and today I will be speaking with you about the stylistic representation choices that are most prominent within the student-led school film, with particular interest to how these choices are portrayed in the Nickelodeon TV series Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide. For many of us, the notion of a student-led film is far from foreign. Direct camera addresses and literary breaks such as those made by Dora, Ferris, and Malcolm and Company are well-documented parts of mainstream culture. Most recently, Spider-Man Homecoming has used this technique with the opening lines, a film by Peter Parker, appearing before the movie proper has even begun, followed by narration from the hero. For my presentation, however, I will be focusing on the adventures of Ned and his two best friends, Cookie and Mose, as they try to do the impossible, create a guide that will help you survive school. Throughout the course of the series, these three make use of the student-led formula to better serve their goals. The style of a student-led narrative most often incorporates elements of the fantastic, which itself is comprised of the horrific and the romantic. While the fantastic is defined as any deviation from the central mean of reality, the horrific and romantic are specifically negative and positive deviations, respectively, from the reality. In his article titled The Fantastic, Svetan Todorov points out that fantasy is not our own, and that much of our understanding of our own fantasy worlds are built upon the popular culture we intake. For this reason, Ned's fantasy version of the school features the Fairly Odd Parents and a spy car. As the show progresses, the visual style is altered to appear more fantastic in nature. By the end of Season 3, the visual style of the show heavily resembles a 1960s comic book page, something that would not be lost on Ned or his audience. This constant blending of reality and fantasy helps to create an atmosphere in which events must either be called into question or accepted outright. Ironically, the show itself pokes fun at this fantasy during the school dance episode by having Mose claim, "This is not a fairy tale," just moments before Gordy the janitor literally swoops in to fix Ned's problems, suggesting that the line between fantasy and reality is even more blurred than the characters themselves know. One character who balances this line well is the villainous Mr. Sweeney, who appears at once to be both a caring teacher and a maniacal supervillain, depending on the way that the students view him that particular day. These two screenshots occur less than 5 seconds from one another, showcasing Sweeney as he is, and Sweeney as the children believe him to be. In this way, Sweeney is Ned's most tenacious practitioner of the horrific. For Mose, however, the horrific manifests itself into something else entirely. For girls, horror is most often characterized as having to do with extreme social pressure or with interactions with boys. In her article, School is Hell, Christine Jarvis points out this difference by noting that elements of horror are most often used for girls when they are preparing to interact with a boy socially or physically. Oftentimes, the boy or the situation is made out to appear villainous, monstrous, or horrific in order to signal to the audience that a line is being crossed for the character's story. Here, Moses' romantic interest, Billy Loomer, is disguised as a mummy to signify this monstrous representation. Departing from the horrific, the romantic exists as the manifestation of all good or potentially good fantastic outcomes for the characters. The romantic very rarely occurs without warning, often being signposted prior to occurring. Carol J. Pardun, in her article Romancing the Script, discusses signposts that she refers to as scripting. Some scripting is obvious, like red hearts over a character's head. Other scripting is more cryptic, like the Susie meter, but both signal for events to come without giving too much information. The most prominent of these scripts is the basic tip. Throughout the series, Ned leaves these little tips with signals for future events while also altering parts of the narrative to ensure that these future events will be set up. They always come before or during the event, never after. In this way, the events of the series, like the explosion of the teacher's lounge toilet, are all highly telegraphed. Fantasy, comprised of both horrific and romantic, serves to alter the narrative of a student-led film in ways that the opposition just cannot match. The 3 points, when operating in conjunction, serve to give the children full creative control over the show's progress, with little to no parent or teacher intervention. In this way, the Nickelodeon TV series Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide is to be held up as exemplary of the student-led narrative genre. Thank you so much for your time today.